Hello and welcome to Lekness Airport in Lofoten. I've just been on a week's photography here, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about all the gear that I took, how I managed to bring it, clothes, accommodation, where to eat, how to get around, and other little tips and tricks that might help you if you're planning a trip to Lofoten, which you should. So while I get a plane back to Berda, let me put on for you some images and some video just to get you in the mood. When I get home, I show you my stuff. Right, here we are back in the UK, Norwegian hat on. Just before I start though, let me just say that this is how we did the trip. It doesn't mean it's the only way to do the trip. It doesn't mean that you may do the trip better, but I'm just going to share the experiences of me and Gary and Sean. The three of us went together and had a great time and a very successful trip. So just in case you want to copy what we did, this is how we went about it. Right, first of all, let's talk about the aim of this. Most airlines allow you 8 kilograms of carry-on luggage. That's one of the stipulations. The other one is how much you can take in your stowed baggage, in other words, in your suitcase. Now, we flew with SAS and they allow 23 kilograms of weight maximum. So that's the plan. Now, the tripods had to go in the case. My main tripod was my trusted Winston. Now the only thing that's different is I normally have a center column on Winston, but I took the center column off because my plan, as it turns out came into fruition, was to shoot quite a few images low down with a wide angle lens of 14 to 30. So what I wanted to do was to get the camera really low to the ground. So to put it onto the plane, I separated the head. So this is the tripod head, just screws at the top here. Took the center column out altogether, and I've literally just got Winston with the head on there. So I can get the legs right out and get really, really low to the ground. Now, the other thing that I was aware of when I did that was the fact that at Hamnoy Bridge, one of the images I wanted to get, you can shoot between the railings, or you can shoot over the top of the railings on the bridge. And Hamnoy Bridge image was one of the ones I definitely wanted to get. And the problem I have is that my lens that I was going to use, the 14 to 30, has got quite a wide ring on the front, which is where the case filters, which I also needed, sticks on. So the actual profile of that is quite wide. So I was a little bit unsure as to whether I would be able to get in between the railings, and also because I'm a vlogger and you may not be, I was conscious that I wanted to get some footage from a way away. So I brought with me this tripod as well, and this is a K&F which they sent me a while ago. Same fitting on the top, so it would fit both cameras. That actually fitted into the case absolutely brilliantly. It was fine. It's got this lovely rubber on it, which it came with, and Gary was kind enough to also put some rubber on Winston, because with cold hands that's not pleasant. So it's good to have that if you can. And the idea with this one was that this would be in the back of the car, first of all as a spare in case one of us broke one, and the other thing that I could do if I wanted to get over the bridge, I could do that. I could also use this for vlogging by putting the Osmo on the top of that. As it turns out, I used it a little bit for vlogging, but I also used it with the Z7ii with the 24 1.8 Viltrox lens on the front to do this time lapse of the northern lights, of the aurora going off. So it worked quite well. I did also throw into my case this is from K&F, and it's I actually won this, and I have been using this in the UK occasionally just to hold the Osmo because it's quite easy to carry around. It's very, very light. As it turns out, it was so windy in Lofoten that I didn't use it at all, so I wouldn't need to bother with that next time. But two tripods, it's really up to you. It's a question of whether you think you're going to break one, whether you feel that you can get your center column separated and use it that way. You probably could get away with one tripod. If I was going to go again, I would definitely take the two, because it's nice to have one doing the time lapse while the other camera's shooting. So 2 tripods. Now, 8 kilograms carry-on luggage. So what I did was I took this. This is my old timber bag. It's 20 litres and it's the perfect size, both inside and outside, to go into a carry. The stipulations that SAS had on the size of the bag that you can take. So it has to be under 8 kilograms and also has to be a certain size. Now, most airlines, put that down there, most airlines are about 8 kilograms, but I think some airlines have smaller or bigger luggage allowances. So go and check with the airline that you're going to fly with to see what you need to do as far as that's concerned. The Leknes flight, the small little plane from Leknes back to Bodo, from Bodo to Leknes, they allow 8 kilograms in total with your carry-on bag and your personal bag. Or in other words, I had my laptop in one hand and this camera bag in the other, and I was successful with both of those. We spoke to a lady who was waiting at the airport who flies regularly with them at Widerøe at Leknes, and she said that they do sometimes weigh your combined baggage because you're only allowed 8 kilograms maximum. We just felt we're going to try and see what happens, and if we got stopped we would have to deal with it at that point. But was lucky enough no one weighed our bags, and actually, even though that was the case, this bag here was 7.9 kilograms, so it was underweight just about. The other option that we did have was to put lenses into a coat, and I'll talk about that in a second. Camera gear, what did I take? First thing, cameras. My new Z8, that's my main camera. That's what I shot with all week. Absolutely fantastic. It's not to say that your camera system isn't equally as fantastic, but that is working down to -9. It haven't missed a beat. The batteries are running out probably a little bit quicker than I thought, but I easily had enough for a day shooting, and I'll talk about batteries in a second. Z7ii backup. I only used it the once with the Viltrox 24 1.8 lens on, because that was just used as a time lapse, but it was there as a backup if I broke this one. Luckily I didn't. So 2 camera bodies, I would say essential. Lenses, this was the thing that takes the most thinking. I like ultra wide angle shots, so a 14 to 30 was an absolute must. I wouldn't have been able to take the Dragon's Eye, this picture, without it, and also I wouldn't really have been able to do the Hamnoy Bridge picture without it either. And I also used the 14 to 30, even though it's an f4 lens, I used it for the Aurora, because that was the only problem I had with it, was focusing properly. But I put it onto manual focus up, and actually I was still getting 800 ISO, about 6 seconds, absolutely no problem at all to use that. So that was my main lens, that's the lens I use most. Other lenses that I took with me, 24 to 200. I don't really see in telephoto, I don't really see a lot of detailed shots. I see them, I don't particularly like them, I guess is probably the better way to explain it. But I do kind of like to crop in sometimes. So a 24 to 200 was really useful. Used it quite a lot for some detailed shots in a village called O, which I enjoy shooting. So, and they both of them use the same system for the filters on the front as each other. So that all works out well. So those are my 2 main lenses. I did also take the Viltrox 24mm 1.8. The idea was to be for some astro, but as I've just explained, in the end, the Aurora, I I could do it with f4, it's so bright. So I wouldn't take that next time. And the other lens I took is in this Wellington boot down here. So in the welly we have this, and this is wrapped in bubble wrap. This is my Sigma 100-400. I ummed and ahed as to whether to take this because, as I've just explained, I don't really shoot a lot of stuff telephoto, but I thought I'd take it just in case we saw any wildlife. We did see some lovely sea eagles, but unfortunately I had the 24mm, the 14-30 on, and this was in the car. But the idea was to put this in the footwell of the car, and as I was driving to stop and shoot some of those mountain scenes, I did a few of them. Here's one here. So it did kind of come in useful, but probably wouldn't take it again. I think what I would do next time is use a 200 and just crop in. So that was not particularly heavy and not particularly useful, but I took it with me and that went into my suitcase, and it was wrapped up in the bubble wrap you've seen, and it was shoved into this welly. So it's very secure. It's been thrown about, I would imagine, by the baggage handlers, and it's absolutely fine. So you'll have to decide whether you need a big telephoto. If you're gonna, shove it in your welly. Okay, other stuff that I took. Case filters. Used the polarizer quite a few times, especially the Dragon Eye picture. I've used some NDs a few times just to blur water sometimes to make things a bit darker. Memory card holder. I was in two minds. If I hadn't got my laptop, I think what I would have done would I would have had a different SD card for each day. Just I took it out and swapped it over. But as it happened, I had my laptop so I could back stuff up. But spare memory cards, both for the Osmo, for the drone, which I'll get to in a second, and the cameras went in there. And speaking of drones, this, I would say, in Lofoten is well worth taking, almost essential, especially for a vlogger like me. I like that lovely B-roll that you saw earlier going over the mountains, but this was my telephoto lens. It's got a 3x zoom on it, and the 3x zoom is what I was using to get those little detailed shots of the mountains in the distance. So I really enjoyed using that. Getting quite high up is also a great way to photograph Lofoten. There's a few shots I want to get next time, which I didn't get this time, but this is going to be an essential piece of kit. Really great. The only problem with it, the only downside with it is it's snowing. Although I did fly it in snow and it was absolutely fine, but you shouldn't really, just in case the motor's short out. So brilliant piece of kit, and obviously that needed a controller, and I used my phone for this one. So that was all in. This was in the main part of the bag, this was in the front part of the bag, and I also had a spare battery. I did actually take the 3 battery charger for these, but in actual fact you don't need it. You just literally plug in a USB into here, and I would recommend that you get quite a fast charging USB external power source, power pack, which I'm going to get for next time, and just plugs in the back and just charge it up, or you can charge it up in the car. So that's pretty much it. So I didn't really use the 100-400 very much. The only other thing I didn't use very much, and you probably won't need this, depends on whether you're taking video or you're vlogging or anything, but I did take my Ace Pro 2 with me, and the idea with this was it was a backup in case the Osmo froze up, which actually, and it's on the tripod now so I can't show it to you, but the Osmo was absolutely amazing. It didn't freeze up at all, so we were very lucky, or it performed brilliantly. This was the idea with this was in case it did, we had a spare one. What I would do next time is probably use that for time lapses. So that would be easier to use rather than getting the Z7ii out. But the Z7ii did just as good a job. The only other way I could do this was maybe use the Z7ii as another video camera should I break the Osmo or the Osmo doesn't work. But then I would need some more external microphones because they don't connect up. So I'd need all that sort of stuff. So that's the way I went. Didn't use it, but it was good to know it was there, and I would definitely take that again. So that, then, is all the gear I took. So that was me carry on, and my personal item was my laptop bag. I had my Mac in it, my external drives which I used to back up, and also my iPad, which I used to watch Netflix, which I didn't do much of, so probably wouldn't take that next time. Next thing, clothing. Right, so clothing, obviously, it depends on how long you're going to go for. We went for 7 days and I took 5 sets of everything. So 5 pairs of merino wool socks, very essential. It was freezing cold when we went. The wind really does blow and the chill factor can be very, very cold. So good, comfortable walking socks, highly recommended. So if we start at the bottom, the other 2 bits of footwear I had 3 pairs of shoes, and in hindsight I would probably, if I'm doing it again, only take 2. I travelled in my Timberland waterproof boots because they're very comfortable, so I decided to take them with me because they've got no metal eyelets on, which meant that I hadn't got to take them off when we went through security. So in my suitcase I had my Scarpa waterproof walking boots, and I wore these pretty much all the time, with some additions on the bottom which I'll talk to you about in a second. So they were in my suitcase. If I was going to do it again and weight was a problem, I would wear these, but you would have to take them off through security because these would send the metal detectors off. But if you're prepared to do that and it's no big hardship, then just take 1 pair of those. But I also took these bad boys. These are muck boots. These are the short Arctic one, and the reason they're called Arctic is because they've got something called a Vibram sole. So these little orange bits in here, I don't know if you can see them. The idea of those is they help you to stop slipping on the ice. They're very kind of grippy, I'd say is the word for those. I'm not sure how brilliant they were. All I can tell you was I felt very secure and I didn't slip, and I was standing on icy wet rocks a lot of the time on the beaches. These are obviously waterproof, they're brilliant. I went with the short ones so they sat in the case a bit better, and as you found out earlier, I shoved the lens in there. If I hadn't put the 100 to 400, I could easily have shoved another lens in there and not worried at all about my carry-on weight. So these are really, really, really good. Lots of boots like the muck boots are great, but I've got 2 pairs of muck boots now, and they are fantastic for anything on the coast. So when we were at Uttercleve and Hawkland Beach, these went on the feet. Absolutely brilliant. Also, really good in the snow, which was at points that kind of deep. So I would say February, Lofoten, going to the coast, take some wellies, would definitely take them again. And the extra addition to footwear are these things, and they go over the Scarpa boots and just fasten them at the back. Really, really great if you're walking in ice. We had lots of snow and not ice, and snow is a lot grippier, but I did put these on a couple of times just so that I could be very sure that I was stable. Whether you take them or not, it's really up to you. Personally, for how much they are and how much they weigh, they're definitely going back in my bag next year. Right, let's move up the body. So I had 2 pairs of trousers. These orange rascals, very cheap from Amazon actually. Really, really good. I've worn them a lot. They're elasticated here. There's a bit of give in the knee. Very solid. I wouldn't say they're the most comfortable, but they are very thick, therefore they're very warm, and they do give you a certain amount of water resistance. When you pull up by the side of the road in Norway, you are supposed to have high vis on when you're walking, especially if you're walking down a road. So Hamnoy, for instance, you should really do that. We didn't see a single policeman, but I'm kind of thinking if they stop me, that's high vis enough. So Rascal trousers, definitely worth taking. The trousers that I wore the most, you'll see me on the videos, were these. These are regatta actually, not that expensive, but they are lined, a certain amount of wind resistance, and they were snug. Really, really lovely. Zip pockets, really useful. Don't be losing car keys, you don't want to be losing microphones and things like that. So a zip pockets are always useful. And if they've got more than one, which these haven't, even better. So 2 pairs of trousers only. I know Sean took some waterproof trousers. I decided not to do that, and in actual fact I think that was probably the right decision. If it's absolutely lashing down, and in Lofoten when it lashes down, it absolutely lashes down, there is no way I would be out there photographing. Anyway, I'd be sitting in the car waiting for the rain to pass, which would happen in about 10 minutes. So I'm not sure you need waterproofs. I did take a small umbrella. I'm not sure how good it would be if it was really windy, but that was my decision. And as luck would have it, I wasn't worried at all about not having any waterproof trousers or any waterproof top. Which takes me on to tops. So I love these hoodies. They've got a nice pocket in the inside where I can put an Osmo pocket or a lens when I'm carrying it along to the beach. 3 sweatshirts that I took with me just to make sure that I was covered. I only really need 2 to be fair, so I could have left one of those at home. And then we're going to come on to this bit. I'll talk about t-shirts in a minute. This beast, absolutely cannot recommend this hardly enough. This is a Craghopper. I think it's called a Bishorn 2 or something. This, I've never seen a coat with so many pockets. It's got pockets there. We've got pockets, 2 pockets, a big deep pocket here where you could drop a lens in. I had my Vallerret Tinden gloves in, and these have been fantastic. I mean, working with gloves is never easy, but the fact that the thumb and the finger just pull back, and I would take it off occasionally just to change a lens. Other than that, these stayed on my hand, and you definitely need a pair of good quality gloves if you're going to go to Lofoten, because your hands get very cold very quickly and often without you realising. And putting these on, and these are the fur lined ones, they were warm as toast. If you decide to buy a pair of those, I'll put my affiliate link on the bottom of this video or in the description, and if you give that a click, I get a bit of kickback, which I'd obviously be very grateful for. But I cannot recommend those Vallerret gloves enough. But these pockets in this coat, going back to this Craghoppers, so deep. I could easily put a 24 to 200 lens in there. If it was overweight on my camera bag, I would literally just shove it in my pocket, and I'm still getting on the plane. I carried cloths in there, I had bags, there's also inside pockets here. We've got one there, we've got one there, I've got the same on the other side. So really, so many pockets. The only problem that I had was finding things. That I got used to putting certain things in certain pockets. So by the end of the trip, I knew exactly where everything was. It's putting it back in exactly the same place is the trick for that. But I cannot recommend that enough. Absolutely marvellous piece of kit. Kept me warm. I did take my rab coat with me, never used it at all. So next time, just taking my big coat, as they say in Yorkshire. And then the layers next to your body, I took 2 thermal long sleeve tops, which I rotated. I took 5 t-shirts, which I rotated. So what I did most of the time, t-shirt on my body, and then the long sleeve top over the top, which meant that would last the 3 days without smelling, because it was a t-shirt that would be smelling. So every night I changed my t-shirt, and then every 3 days I swapped over the long sleeve t-shirt. So that's what I did as far as that's concerned. I would say you need 1, 2, 3 layers plus a coat at least when you're going out and it's cold. So a t-shirt, a long sleeve thermal, and then a sweatshirt, and then the coat. I didn't bother taking any thermal leggings. Sean took some, didn't use them. It could be colder there. It might be something worth putting 1 pair in, but I chanced it, and actually I was fine. I had a pair of jogging bottoms that I wear quite a lot around the house, and I use those to slob about in the accommodation in the evening. So if push come to shove, I could have worn those. And the other thing you need is hats. Gary carried 4, that's the kind of guy he is, but I had a couple of hats and a spare pair of gloves in case I lost the Vallerret, and I did actually drop one and had to go back for it, so worth taking an extra pair of gloves. So that's clothing. Right, next thing, how do you get there? Options. You have to fly to Oslo. So we flew from London Heathrow to Oslo. We took the 7:10 in the morning flight, which meant an incredibly early start. But that kind of bit went all right. With SAS, you check in yourself. So in other words, you scan your boarding pass on a machine. It then prints out the baggage tag. You scan it, you put it on the scales, and as long as it's under 23 kilograms, off goes your bag, and you see that in Boda. Hand luggage is not weighed at that point, so you should be all right with that. Check with your airline how it's done. We were in Terminal 2, self-check-in, put it in the hold, and then we went to Terminal 2 to try and find something to eat, and actually the facilities there were not great, and I think the most expensive meal we had all week was actually for not a very nice burger first thing in the morning in Terminal 2 airport. So come on, Terminal 2. Once you've checked your bag in, you then have to wait for boarding. We decided to go straight through security because it takes a while. Now, this is the most stressful piece of the journey. You scan your boarding pass, it lets you into security, and then it depends on what airport you're in as to what you have to do next. You will certainly have to take out laptops into a separate tray. They wanted my iPad in another tray, so I've got my laptop bag, my laptop, my iPad, my phone and my watch had to go in a tray. Any money that you're keeping, any keys, make sure that goes in there. I then put my coat in another one, and then my camera bag. At Heathrow, they just wanted the cameras in a separate tray, although I have been asked to show some security people or some customs officials my lenses before. And actually when we went to Bodo and when we went to Leknes, they wanted the cameras and the lenses and all of the external drives and all the batteries and the chargers in a separate tray. So I needed in total about 6 trays, but that is fine. They are doing their job. I knew I wasn't carrying anything illegal, and I would much rather they stopped everybody and checked them thoroughly than something unpleasant was brought on board. The lady in front of us got stopped at Leknes because she had left a battery in her bag, so they will find that. So you need anything like that, power banks and stuff, make sure that anything like that needs to be in your hand luggage. But after about 6 times, we were very good at taking all the cameras out, putting all the cameras back, and it's no problem. The most important thing is to not stress, don't get shouty, don't get angry, use as many trays as you need, take as much time as you need, and don't worry about the people behind you. You've just got to do as you're told. Once it comes out the other end, then you gather it all back together, and away you go. One of us got stopped randomly for a drug test, and it wasn't because they looked suspicious. The machine is actually programmed to just beep every so many people. It's random, and then all the lady did on security was literally scan the bag with a piece of paper. It kind of picks up, I don't know how it works, but that's basically what they did. They dusted it over, and then obviously we were fine and free to go. Liquids also, of course, have to be under a certain size and have to be in a clear bag so they can see them. So something else to bear in mind. But once you're through security, you're then airside, as they call it. Leknes Airport, this was it. Very little indeed. Bodo Airport, not a great deal, but we did find a couple of places to eat. And Oslo Airport, as you would expect for a big city, was a lot bigger, and there was lots more options to go and choose things to eat, things to drink, and things to buy. As far as getting there then, so we went Oslo, we then flew from Oslo to Berda, which is the north of Norway, and then from Berda you have options. You can catch a ferry. If you're going in the summer, I think the ferries run twice a day. We've tried to book ours for a long time and there were no ferries showing, and I think the ferry went once during the whole week we're there. So a ferry for us was out of the question, having gone in February. The other option we discussed was driving around the coast. That would be about a 10-hour drive. We talked about maybe splitting it up with another stop. And if you want to visit the photograph with the football pitch, that's up the north, so it's something to consider if that's definitely on your list. But what we did, and what I would recommend, is we flew from Boda to Leknes Airport via the Widerøe prop planes, which Gary didn't particularly enjoy, but actually I thought was brilliant fun. On the way out, we shared it with 4 American Army guys, and it made it feel very kind of going to the Arctic as to explore. So I really enjoyed it. Brilliant flight, literally 20 minutes, 10 minutes in the air, and then 10 minutes back down again, and that's just no problem at all. And that took us in to Leknes. At Leknes, we picked up our car hire, and it was more expensive to pick it up there, so you'll get a better deal if you pick up a car in Boda, but then the problem is getting it from Boda to Leknes, so we paid more. It's getting around Lofoten. We hired a car. This is a RAV4 we got from budget, Hertz budget, and it's absolutely brilliant. All-wheel drive, option to have snow tyres. Take the snow tyres because they have been rock solid. I haven't felt like I'm going to slip at any point. All of the roads have red poles along the side to show you where the road ends, because when it's been snowing constantly, it's very, very difficult to tell where the road ends and where the ditches start. And we did see one person who was trying to get pulled out, and we waited half an hour and in the end turned round, and it turns out from a local that they were going far too fast. When over the brow of a hill, somebody else was in the middle of the road, they swerved, 2 wheels were in the ditch, and the next minute they were stuck. So just be very careful. You will find the locals will overtake you. I found some of the locals impatient. I was doing, I would say, between 60 and 70 kilometres an hour with the snow tyres on, which I felt was fast enough, but it wasn't fast enough for a lot of the locals who were overtaking us. So just be aware. Norway, you drive on the right, and that takes a little bit of getting used to. Other than that, we didn't see a great deal of traffic. There's not an awful lot of cars on the road, but you will see, obviously, a few of them. Roads themselves, there is a certain amount of gritting, but they don't salt them. They don't get the snow to melt. That's not the idea. What they do, and what are constantly going up and down the roads, including a lot of the side roads, are snow plows. They just go around and make sure that the snow is probably about 3 or 4 centimetres deep. But if you've got snow tyres on, that is absolutely no problem at all. So just follow the snow plows, and if the road hasn't been ploughed, it will be soon. Pulling over, by the way, to find photographs, there's normally places, especially all the hot spots, make sure your car is completely off the road. If it's hanging into the carriageway at all, you can get fined, because obviously you're causing an obstruction, so make sure you're well enough over. The pull-ins with the blue letter M, actually it's a white letter M on a blue background, that's a passing place. You'll also see blue signs with a bus on it. Those are bus stops. But there are also plenty of other places that you can pull in and either let people past, or you can park your car and go and take some photographs. If you go to Hawkland Beach, or you go to Uttercleve Beach, you need to pay for parking. That's easily done on a card, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. Both Hawkland and Uttercleve beaches have lovely warm toilets. You have to pay for them, but they're really, really useful. And both of those places have also got plenty of parking around them. We picked ours up from budget as we came out of Leknes. Literally, Leknes has got the baggage reclaim, the check-ins and the arrivals lounge are in the same bit of building, which is basically the same size as my house, I would say. And you pick up your car from there and drop it back up there. So that was all really, really efficient. Really enjoyed the RAV4. It was an automatic, but an absolutely fantastic vehicle. Had lots of mod cons on it. We were really, really happy with our time with that car. Very, very easy to drive. Petrol prices, pretty much the same as at home. There's not as many petrol stations as you would imagine, so just be careful if you're in Leknes and you need some petrol. Fill up. Everything is done contactless. Most of the kiosks are unmanned. You have to pay everything by contactless card. And actually, that's one little tip that we picked up. Sean, a member of our party, had the brilliant idea, and he's used it before. He has a Monzo account, and a Monzo bank account allows you to put money into pots. So what we decided to do is we paid £500 each into a pot, and that was our whip. He just paid for everything as we went through. Which brings me on to what we spent our money on. How much did we spend? Let's talk about the food. So food, there are not many restaurants in Lofoten. There are a few fast food joints. We did pretty much every single lunchtime at Burger King. Not particularly healthy, but it's not going to kill me for a week. So we had a Burger King for lunch pretty much. Everything else we did, we bought from one of the either the supermarkets or the little corner shops. So not many of those either. There is a nice big co-op in Leknes, great to stock up as you leave the airport. We stayed near Rain, and Rain has got a small co-op which was literally within walking distance. There are a couple in O, and there are a couple in Ramsburg where you can stop. But we found that by buying things from the co-ops and the supermarkets, we got back to the house and cooked, and actually from the £500 we all put in, we ended up getting over £200 each back, because I cooked 3 or 4 meals, Sean cooked 3 or 4 meals, we had pizzas another couple of days, and that was us done. And if you buy the stuff from the supermarkets, you won't spend an awful lot more than you would back at home. Beer out there, we didn't stop at any bars. We bought some beer from the supermarket. The only time we actually did stop at a restaurant was at Anita's seafood restaurant, which is where the Yellow Hut is shot, and they have an awful big supply of cod heads and various fishy things. Whale, I think there was whale you could buy, and all sorts of caviar, but none of those took our fancy. But we did have a really nice coffee there and some nice pastries. So heartily recommend you do that after a hard day out, and that's neat, but again not cheap. If you look at the actual menu though, most of it I wasn't going to eat, to be honest. So Burger King it was for me. And finally, accommodation. We stayed at an Airbnb, and Airbnbs have got lots of different choices. As far as where you're going to stay, it's quite a long peninsula, so at one end, and then pretty much Utaklev is as far as we got, really the other way. Ramsburg is a good option. We stayed at Rainer, and that's actually a really, really good location, because Rainer itself has got quite a few locations that you can shoot. You can get to O, you can get to the Hamnau Bridge, you can do the Sakrasoy shot, you can do Anita's, and then we literally drove about an hour to get to Utaklev. Hawkland Beach is slightly before that, and there are lots and lots and lots of hotspots on the way there. If you get Lofoten in the snow, you will be stopping every 2 minutes. So wherever you stay will be fine, but I would definitely recommend somewhere around Ramsburg, Rainer. The best thing to do is decide on the shot that you have to have, go and find where it is on the map and try and find somewhere close. Pretty much all the locations were chocker with photographers, apart from Sundays. Sundays seems very quiet, and I think the reason for that is that's probably the changeover day. So we went Monday to Monday, and I would say that's probably the thing to do. Well, there we go. I think that's everything. I hope you found that useful. If you want to know anything else about what we did, send me an email or comment down below, and I'll be sure to answer it. As I said at the start, this is not the only way to do it. I'm not saying we're the best at doing the tour of Lofoten, but we had a very successful trip, and I can tell you that because the photographs I was really, really pleased with. If you haven't seen the others episodes in this series, then I'll put a link down below, and they'll be at the end of this video for you to have a look at. So in the meantime, enjoy your photography. Thanks for watching. Take care. Goodbye.